Live. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Jo Ioannidis, formerly known as Jo McCarthy. I'm a founding member of Strive and been so for a couple of years now. I'm a founder of Protoscience. I also head up PNC at Total Synergy. I'm also a volunteer at Jobs for Humanity, which is a startup that helps people get ahead when it comes to finding job opportunities. I'll be your host for today. So every month, Strive and hold a webinar tackling big themes, and leadership is our topic for April. Through collaborative leadership, which I love, and we're going to find out more about today, managers and executives can create an inclusive environment that energizes teams, releases creativity, and cultivates a work culture that's both productive and joyful. The two go hand in glove. To help us to better understand what underpins that collaborative leadership, we've invited Jade Hansen. She's the general manager at the Network Technology Recruitment, based in Canberra, and she's here to share her experiences and insights, which I'm also happy to learn from. She's the president of a not-for-profit board. She's focused on men with complex needs and their families, and has an unwavering commitment to making a positive contribution in both of those roles. She is an empathetic and open leader, and I'm sure she also has this collaborative leadership style that she's going to talk to us about. She's got a proven ability to achieve business goals in that collaborative manner. She's committed to creating a sense of unity, and achieving success collectively is her focus and her drivers. As a mentor, she works with individuals, I should say, to develop and help them achieve their professional goals. Jade believes in providing individuals with the tools to succeed in their careers and is an advocate for lifetime learning. That in itself, Jade, amazing. I'm so thrilled to be introducing you. So I'm going to pass it over to you now to talk us through collaborative leadership, and I'll be taking notes. Over to you, Jade.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jo. And thank you so much for having me on. It's such an honour to be asked to do this for you today. So we'll just start with a little bit of background, I guess, about me very quickly. I just made some really brief notes here on my journey. I say I had an unconventional kind of start to my journey, but I don't think it's an unusual one. I really wasn't very career-minded when I first finished school, and did a year of marketing, as that was sort of my passion, but this is the early 90s, so marketing wasn't quite what it is today, and probably not such a popular career choice, I guess, at that point. It was sort of just starting to come about. We weren't even quite sure what it meant. It just sounded great. But my burning desire was always cosmetics and skincare. So after a year of marketing, I did pack up and left Canberra and moved to Sydney for a year to study at a cosmetic beauty therapist school for a year, which for me was a bit of a life-changing experience, and really showed me the side of business in the cosmetics industry. I ended up working in their head office for a while in the marketing department there. And I really got to look across, I guess, the business of cosmetics, and not just the cosmetics and the fun playing with cosmetics, but really like sales, KPIs, and just how it all fits in to the bigger business strategy. And that's where I sort of started to realize that actually I really love business as a strategy, and it works across every sector. So you could enjoy a sector that you're working with and really look at the business strategies that are involved in it, and that kind of analytical side of things, and putting a plan in place and setting outcomes and milestones. In that role as well, I was really fortunate to have an amazing leader who was a woman, and she really took me under her wing and really set me on my path, I guess. But then I sort of dipped out of that career focus, you know, traveled, got married, had children, and sort of put all that on the back burner and didn't think too much of it. I was given my first role as a manager when I was quite young in cosmetics, and I deliberately choose the word manager there over leader, because I was so young and I was so just followed direction, and it was that very traditional hierarchy. I just gave orders. I was probably a terrible manager, but definitely I would not call myself a leader. And it probably wasn't until I had children and really started to look at interactions with everybody across the board that I realized how important it is to be a leader. And I think
This
a lot
is so
was going
wonderful.
on. Yeah, like in the early 2000s, I think it all started to come out, like the difference between leadership and management, and that there is a difference. And so that really became something I was very invested in and really wanted to try and hone my skills in that. And I guess once my children were a little bit older and I found myself in a different situation, I sort of had to get a little bit strategic about my career. I was suddenly, okay, I have 2 small children, I'm on my own with them. What's my plan? And I really didn't have one. So instantly I started looking at ways that I could start learning. And I think that's where my love of learning really stepped in as well, because I realized it doesn't matter what you're learning. So long as you're continually educating yourself and putting yourself out there to learn more, you will benefit. You know, I've done courses that I didn't know why I was doing them, but they come into play, you know, from time to time. And I was like, oh, that all makes sense now. It can be something small. So I think there's a definite, I always advise people, just keep learning. You don't have to take on, you know, a graduate, like a university degree. There's so many wonderful courses, just keep learning. So I think that's all part of that leadership journey as well. You know, really setting yourself up with as many skills and tools as you can to become a better leader. So after I did actually decide to do an MBA, which I didn't know what I was getting myself into. If I had it, I probably wouldn't have done it at the time, but did it and successfully completed it. And that really was probably my most strategic decision in my later kind of career path. And that has helped me immeasurably. It's really given me that strategic mindset, as well as the legitimacy around that. I think when people see that on your resume, they feel that you can really take these roles and you do have a strategic mind to get through that. So now I'm working across federal government and the defence sector, which has gone from cosmetics, fashion, and into defence. And I'm loving it. It's fantastic. And the thing that has come through all of those roles with me, as diverse as where I started to where I am, is leadership and is the business strategy. And my journey has been, as I mentioned at the beginning, I was an awful manager. I just followed direction. I was probably very bossy and not kind. And over the years, I would hope that now I have matured into a much more emotionally intelligent and self-aware leader. And for me, that is just the most important thing of anything you do in a day.
It's a pretty impressive background. I love hearing the career story. I know I had the privilege of, you know, getting to know you a little bit before we set up this session to hear about it. But I love the fact that you've gone from a certain sector and pivoted to a completely new one, and you found your way along that journey. And in that, you realize leadership is an ongoing learning journey in itself. You know, you start off by giving it a go and seeing what it's like, and then you realize what doesn't work very quickly. So,
yes.
And
people will always tell you, sorry to cut you off, but people would let you know if it's not working.
They really will. But all of this has led to you being able to define this collaborative leadership that we're going to find out about today. So before I pass it back to you, I just wanted to say to the audience, please go ahead and ask questions in the comments and we'll bring them up in the later section. So Jade will now take us through some learning, and some insights, and then we will go to question time at the end of that. Please feel free to share comments as well. As you know, the insights are coming through. You might want to, you know, give an indication of what that means to you, what aha moment you may have. So I'll pass it to you, Jade, to take us through that now.
Thanks so much, Jo. So I thought I would just start off with this quote here, which is leadership is not a position or a title, it's an action and an example. And I think this is a really important one. It really, for me, I think it challenges that traditional org chart. You know, we're so used to seeing leaders sitting at the top and then roles coming in underneath. But I think this is really saying that everybody is a leader within an organisation and in life. And it's really important that we remember that at all times. I think that we are displaying the behaviours that we would want people to see in us as leaders. and it's not something that you just get a title that just sits on an org chart and then that's when you're a leader. And just a little bit around what collaborative leadership is. So it is a distribution of power and influence across a team, and it does start at the executive level and trickles down. And it really encourages everyone to lean in and to be an active team member. I think the thing I really like about this is it does encourage you to lean in. And I know this we were talking about the other day, Jo, like when you're sort of sitting around a table and you've got sort of that hierarchy, one person kind of saying, this is what we're doing, your body language in itself, you sort of sit up straight or lean back a little bit. Whereas when you encourage people to lean in around a table and contribute ideas and be a part of a vision and the journey to get there, the body language is more they lean in towards that and they start to take ownership of it. And it's a much nicer feeling in a room. And I know, having led so many meetings, I feel so much more comfortable in myself when I have people lean in and they're invested in the conversation and they're not sitting back and waiting for me to have all the answers, which is nerve-wracking. And it makes it a much nicer experience for everybody. And I think you'll have a more invested team. And that's really what collaborative leadership's about. It's about getting people to take ownership of their part of a dream and a vision and really getting invested and wanting the best outcome for themselves and for the team, which in turn is going to be the best outcome for your organisation.
Yeah, I love how you piece that all together. It makes perfect sense the way you've described it. Now, I have a quick question asking about the leaning in. When you've been in that scenario in a meeting, do you lean in first and do they follow suit? How does that work?
So, yeah, I think it is. Like, people do tend to obviously even subconsciously copy body language or, but as a leader, you do have that responsibility to set the tone.
Yeah.
And that's something we will talk about as well, is just that high level of self-awareness, but we'll leave that for another slide. But, like, we could talk about this for days, quite honestly. But, on this slide here, we're talking about collaborative leadership and what it encourages, and it does encourage that collective working style. So it really is about getting together and having that collective mindset, which even the language is beautiful, right? Like when you're talking about things being a collective, and it's
not
really
just a
nice
silo thing.
Yeah. It's encouraging people to express thoughts and feelings and ideas. So it's a much nicer way of coming together as a team. You're not sort of just there running through the motions. You're actually feeling what you're doing. But for all of this to work, as a leader, you have got to create a safe environment for your team. And everybody has to take ownership of that. But as a leader, really, the visionary leader, so sort of the one that's executing coming up with the vision and the why for the company and the organisation, it's really up to you to set the tone. And it can be a bit of a fine line on that one as well, because you are leading from a different position. You're sort of leading from a very kind, approachable place. There's a very fine line between that and then becoming overly familiar and friendly with people. And then in turn, that can break trust as well. So you do have to keep your boundaries as well.
I like that. That's a very important point that you're making. Even though it's a collective and everyone has an idea, a voice to share their ideas, it's the respectful environment where you've got to remind yourself where you are. You're in a professional environment and you're there to come up with these things as a collective. And I like the collective piece that you refer to, because it makes it feel like it's not just a leader doing his thing or her thing on their own. It's a unanimous, let's have fun together in a way. It would be more fun to do it as a team rather than as an individual giving direction or being directive and giving instructions. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we all feel a lot better about doing something if we're invited to do something and invited to participate and contribute rather than just being instructed to go away and do something.
Yeah, 100%. Let's be real. Nobody likes to be told what to do.
Yeah, I mean, really, we don't. But it's very true. And that's why I think with collaborative leadership style as well, there's so much tied up in language. And, it's how you wording things, and how you're approaching people and how you're asking. It's a lot tied up in the way that you're executing instructions.
Yeah, I like that. It's the sense of giving empowerment so people can feel like, they're a part of it rather than, just taking on instructions as you described. Yeah, I prefer that. Yeah. Collective, collaborative leadership. Definitely.
Yes. And if you don't have a safe environment, then it can be really destructive and it just won't work, as people will not speak up. And the ones that speak up will be the most sort of dominant personalities in the team. And they will start speaking up, and then there will be their ideas. And before you know it, you're back in a hierarchy. It's just that you as the sort of vision leader aren't sitting at the top. So, you can lose control and it can unravel. You do need to really make sure that everybody is participating, in a respectful way, and no one's trying to take control.
I like that. It's almost like calling the person that you typically would sit at the back of the room, just for visual. That's why I'm describing it that way. And you're encouraging them to, make a contribution. That is quite a powerful thing, to let them share what they have to say as well. So, I like that.
And you're right in saying that as well. It's sort of probably the person that doesn't really speak up. It's giving them the confidence and then the space to speak up, but creating that space for them, because you will get the more dominant personalities wanting to jump in and wanting to speak over the top of them. I mean, I can be like that as well. And it's a big thing for me. Like, I have to actually sometimes think, okay, just take some breaths and let other people speak.
Yeah.
And that's where your self-awareness comes in as well, right?
Yes, and that's what you're going to talk about.
Yes,
a little bit further.
All right. So we've got here, collaborative leadership is not about having all the answers. It's about asking questions. I think this is such a powerful quote. I think as leaders, it takes a lot of courage to sit back and not have all the answers, but to have that courage to say, I don't know everything. This is what I need, or these are the questions I have. Who has the answers? And I do think, like, leaders can take so much upon themselves to know everything. And, we don't have to have all the answers. I mean, I certainly don't have all the good ideas, and I have some terrible ideas, and I rely on my team to tell me that's not a good idea. Like, this is a much better idea, and we can kind of banter and laugh about it because we do have that environment. And people aren't afraid to say to me, well, I think there's a better way. And I feel so relieved when they say it. But in the beginning, it's a bit strange because we've all got an ego and we all want to be right. And, there's a lot of self-learning there as well about yourself and self-assessment, to really look at yourself and think, that's okay, they're not attacking me. They're not criticizing me. These are just great ideas. But it can be quite difficult.
So creating that safe space that you refer to leads to this very thing. And I like the idea of, hey, I don't have all the answers, but let's find out together, because that's the essence of what you're sharing here. And also, if you feel that something can be done in an enhanced fashion, I'd love to hear it, because we all want to improve and grow, and that's what that is based on. Yeah.
Yeah, and quite often when teams first start working in a collaborative model, they're quite shocked when the leader sits and says, look, I'm not sure. Like, this is where we need to get to. This is our vision, but I don't quite know how we're going to get there completely. Like, I need you guys to contribute to the journey. And if they're not used to that, then they will sort of be, but you're the leader. Like, you should know, you're my boss. So it is really that educating the team as well and getting them to shift their mindset to, it's okay, I don't know everything. And I think because we've all been conditioned to think our leaders know everything, or it's their way or the highway.
Of course. Yeah, that's
right. so this all comes with creating that kind of environment where everybody has a deep understanding that this is okay. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to say that that's not the best way to do something. But that takes time as well, and trust. So you have to be building that trust and a safe environment.
Yes, that's the key word there. Awesome.
Yes. So we've touched on this a little bit, but impactful collaborative leadership it really requires a really high emotional intelligence. And this is not something that you're just going to suddenly have. It is something that took me a long time to develop, and through a lot of trial and error and a lot of errors that I guess just, I can be quite decisive. I can really be quite sure that I'm right and I'm not. And I can really think that, that's such a great way. Like, my idea is so good. And in the beginning, when somebody would sort of challenge that, although I was the one that was wanting this model, I found it very difficult to kind of measure my response, or to, I guess, be okay with being told in front of a room that, oh, yeah, I don't think that's amazing. Like, I don't think that's the best idea. And I had to really work on my emotional intelligence. And I have to say, I'm not perfect. I still have, times where I think I could deal with that better. But having really worked consciously on my emotional intelligence has helped me across the board. It's helped me in my personal life. It's helped me in so many areas. And if nothing else, emotional intelligence and self-awareness are two things that will get you far in life.
The way that you just framed that, and I 100% resonate with this, is, great leaders usually do self-development, period. Mm-hmm. They're always constantly wanting to learn and get better at what they're doing, and communicating it at the same time. So that's a powerful way to look at it.
So emotional intelligence, self-awareness, if you're going to work on anything as a leader, they're the best places to start. And it's a muscle. 100%. You've got to work at it every day. Unfortunately, you don't just have it and you're done. It is a continual journey. And I think if we spoke in 12 months' time, Jo, I would probably be at a different spot in my emotional intelligence as well. Another thing that is really important is to, I always think, lead with an open mind and an open heart is another one that I usually kind of like to say to my team, or to if I'm mentoring, and kindness. And it is really important. And I think kindness isn't something that we often sort of think about too much as leaders.
That's right. You don't often associate kindness with leadership, or haven't done historically. It's changing now with what you're just describing here. And that's what we want. We want the kindness and the care.
Yeah, and it's super important, because when you think about, people respond really well when you care about them. And if they don't feel that, then their care factor's not there either. So, it's a really good way to sort of start to build, I think, that team bonding as well.
Yes.
So I like to think, this, by the way, is obviously I've gotten these thoughts through readings and, study over the years and different things, but this is one of my favorites. So as a leader, you're setting the stage and you're allowing others to perform. And
beautiful quote. That's your quote. You should put your name under that.
No. So I wouldn't, because I'm sure I got it from somewhere, and I'm not going to claim that it's mine. But this is probably one of my favorites, because it really sums it up. So you're really setting the stage. You're there. You're telling your team, this is the why we exist. I need you guys to, collaboratively come up with the how. I'm here to support you, and I've got ideas, obviously, but let's together find the how and go on a journey together. And very difficult for leaders at times to set the stage and step back and let others perform, because as leaders, we usually want to perform. We're so used to being out there. But it's really important to allow your team to perform.
Yeah, that reminds me of the saying of every great leader is building the next great leaders,
100%. And that's what you want. You want to build, I always think you want to build an organization of leaders, not followers.
Yes.
And you want your team to go off and have an amazing career after they've been with your organization, and take all those wonderful skills with them and go out there, and they're almost ambassadors for your organization, because they leave with such good memories and great skill set, and they've become great, leadership skills and things, and they go off and they will always remember that they learned that from you. So
100%.
I really like that as well. I think it's great. So this one here is just the 6 key benefits of a collaborative leadership model. It's invested teams. So once you've really started to execute this model, you will see a higher level of employee engagement, and they take ownership of outcomes, because the outcomes are really driven with a sense of passion from your team members. You'll have a more open communication. So individuals are more likely to share ideas with one another. They're also more likely to sort of step outside their comfort zone, because they feel like there's that trust within the team and they can share ideas that potentially they would have just kept to themselves because it's not in their job description or it's not in their title. Or so you'll start to find that kind of cross-pollination of different ideas, and from that you achieve greatness. You know, you have great ideas when people come out of their shell and start to share things. An increase in team culture. So collaborative leadership model will really start to bring teams together, and they want to build together. They want to build something. They've got this kind of vision of what they're wanting to achieve, and they will really start to do that together, and you'll get that kind of cross-skilled, very different to what you would get if you were working in a silo, and that kind of hierarchy, and a very different experience. Internal uplift, and this is one of my favorites, and it's sort of what we touched on just before, but it's that allowing your individuals to grow in their roles and giving them the opportunity to see what else they're capable of. So really, if we're just giving them their jobs and that's it and stay in that box, that's all they're going to do. They're going to become bored, they leave. Internal uplift is helping your organisation to grow as well, and it's staff retention. It's getting the best out of people and having them in your organisation. It creates loyalty. Even if they leave, which you always want your people to go off and have a wonderful career doing something more, even if you're sad to see them go. But they take with them those fond memories and those great skills. But you'll see your organisation, people will start to move up the ranks. And then they become leaders that you are so proud to see in your organisation. And then they're nurturing the younger people coming through, or the newer people coming through. Diversity of thought and skill sets. So, you know, you're really identifying individuals' strengths and weaknesses, and that's fantastic in itself, you know, for people to actually sit and have a look. And it's not even just their strengths and weaknesses, but what they're interested in. What else would you like to do? So this is what you're currently doing and this is your role, but is there any area you'd like us to really maybe invest in some further education for you? Did you want to do a course in that? You seem really naturally gifted in this area. Is this something? And you start to see people blossom, and it breaks silos. So it really encourages team members to lean in, not out. Especially, you know, now that a lot of us work from home, or, you know, can be working in different time zones, different countries. It's quite difficult now to maintain a culture, like a positive culture. And this style of working really does help when you're working remotely, because it's encouraging you to really reach out to other team members and work in huddles, even if it's virtually.
That's magnificent. These 6 benefits, insights, you've given the insights and the intel that go with it. It really just led to the point in my mind just now that this is the epitome of a highly engaged workforce, meaning a high performance culture where everyone is clear and on what their role is, but they have a voice and can share ideas, and they feel supported and encouraged. They're growing. This is the holy grail, literally. So this is why this kind of leadership is important, because it leads to that. And that's wonderful.
And I think this type of model is something that you would see quite commonly in some successful startups, where everybody is coming and they don't have such a defined role yet. They just sort of know what their passion is, and they're coming together as a collective. And, you know, you can see the innovation and the speed to which things happen when it's done well.
We do have a question that's come up, but we'll ask that at the end.
Sure. Collaborative leadership journey. So this is just sharing the vision and getting people on board. So at the end of the day, we're still dealing with individuals, individual personalities. People come to work with for different reasons, different, you know. So yes, it sounds so amazing right now, you know, to this point, but you're always going to have issues, unfortunately. It's always going to be personality issues, conflicts, those types of things, but you really need to work as a leader to get people on board. And so the leader really is your visionary. So this is the person that's sitting at the top with the vision, and it's really important that you still have a strategy and structure. So it's not a free-for-all. We're not all just coming to work and doing what we love and going home. I mean, it's, you know, there's still structure and there's milestones and objectives, and unfortunately there's still KPIs, and you still, you know, have a role. You've got to be earning your worth. So it's very important for the visionary, who, let's say it could be the CEO or, you know, the I don't know, chief of staff or something, but it's very important that they are really clear, concise communicators. Communication in collaborative leadership is vital. To have good communication is, if you don't, and you're very unclear in what the expectations are, it just turns to mush, and it just won't succeed. People still need to know exactly what the expectations are. And then you need to have your guiding force. So I always think of the vision is the thread. So if you sort of imagine you've got this vision at the top, and that you have to have a common thread running through. Yes, everyone's doing their own thing, but there has to be a thread there. And that is your vision. And your thread is going to bring everyone together. So we're all here for this reason. Let's pull that thread. And it brings people together as you pull the thread out. So the vision is a thread that connects the teams, and it's the heartbeat of the organisation. And I think if we think of it that way, your vision is your heartbeat. And then it's,
I think,
sorry.
Yeah, so I think I just wanted to quickly make a point before it escapes my mind, that it's easy to get stuck into the everyday, the actions, the firefighting, and as a leader, it's bringing everyone back to why we're doing this in the first place. So this is why the vision is quite important, that guiding force that you refer to, and that it's a collective thing, meaning everyone has a role to play within it. So I think, I just wanted to share that. That's the thought that popped into my mind, and I like the way you described it. Yeah.
So it is, but you can see also why it's so important that the visionary has that clear communication style and is really quite concise in what the objective is, because it really does help people to align their thoughts and actions, and also the collective objective. So defining the company's why is essential for collaboration, as it provides the collective objective. And I really like the words around that as well, the collective objective, because it just sounds nicer, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what it's described to be, like in a short format. It's like, I think I will be starting to use that more and more. I like that a lot. And I like the piece around, once again, everyone being reminded of what their role is, and that ties back to the why. So if you think about, okay, what is my role? You mentioned, doing what you're paid to do, your worth. You're coming to do a job in the organization, but not just to do a job. This is to do it well, to add that value, to make sure it connects back to the strategy and the vision, so you don't feel that you're going off piste. You're still on the right track, even if things do come up and you might have challenging scenarios and people and problems. It's reminding ourselves through the leader, reminding them perhaps, what they're there to do.
Yeah, and I think of it like as when you say traveling abroad or something, and you might be starting in one country and your destination's another one, but you haven't really finalized all your plans in between. But where you want to get to. You've got to get to Barcelona, and you're currently like in Milan.
That's right.
We'll have fun getting there, but we know we successfully have to get there, so it's a bit like that. And I think this is really important as well, and it's invite, don't tell. So I think if you're inviting your team members to participate, it's a much nicer way to be doing it than saying, I need do this. Whereas if it's like, would you like to participate in this area? Or you had some great ideas in today's meeting, and I would love, to work with you if you'd like to on this. And I mean, it all comes back to language.
It really does. And setting the tone, the way you say it, I think, yeah, you've hit a really good point. There's no essence of good leadership without communication being effective, and the language does matter, and setting the tone for that really does matter, with the intention of let's do this together. So inviting team members, yeah, that's the only way this collaborative leadership can work.
Yeah, definitely. And this one here is just successfully implementing collaborative leadership. So I'm not going to say that it is easy. You know, it's actually quite exhausting as the visionary, or like as the head of the kind of area, to have this type of leadership going, because you're managing personalities and people. You're not just giving instructions and walking away and come back when it's finished. But you know, it is a living and breathing culture. But the benefits are definitely worth it. But implementing collaborative leadership with minimal mistakes and errors requires serious thought and consideration. And it really is thought and consideration around yourself. And then, so you have to start with yourself and how you are going to react to situations. What's likely to trigger you? It's like you really need to have a lot of self-reflection. And I think my next slide just touches on that slightly. It's, I've gone, yeah, perfect. This one here is regular self-assessments are vital, and check-ins. But I think even before you implement this, it's really worth taking some time out to do some self-reflection and to really think about what's your trigger. What does my face do? I'm very expressive, and it's worked against me quite a lot, because people are looking at you because it's an emotional kind of leadership style. And if I'm thinking about something, I can probably pull a certain face, but to somebody else, they're reading that she doesn't like what I'm saying. Or so you do have to have that really high level of self-awareness, which I keep coming back to, but it is extremely important. And you have to be aware of how you're perceived in a room. So it is exhausting, right? You're thinking about all these things. But there's a regular self-assessments and check-ins. If you're not having a great day, if you know yourself, you're feeling exhausted, vulnerable, something's happened in your personal life, and you have to have a difficult discussion with somebody on your team, just don't do it that day.
Exactly.
You know, it can wait. Do it tomorrow when you've had some sleep, you're feeling better. But it's having 100%. That awareness. You know, pick your battles. If something's really annoying you about something that somebody's doing, you don't want to jump in and attack, because you will destroy all your hard work. So you're really better off.
That's so true.
Oh, today I just have to have an admin day, you know, and it's okay. I'm just going to close my door for an hour and get through some stuff, because I'm probably, you know, not fit for society today, and that's okay. But that is your self-awareness.
I love the human element that you're bringing to this, because we just expect leaders to be bionic men and women who don't have feelings, and then, you know, they regulate it to the extent of being unflappable. And yes, when they show up, they probably will be unflappable, but behind the scenes, to get to that point, they're human too. So having some time out, I think it's good that you're saying that people should give themselves permission to do it at a better time, when they're feeling like they're top of their game, not bottom of their game. Yeah.
And you know you're going to manage that situation a lot nicer as well. You'll be a lot kinder to that person, because they're not going to, you know, have to experice your mood.
So, yeah, it's being the example, not the warning.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
A great leader looks like.
Yes. Yeah. And just be prepared, because things will not always go smoothly. You know, you're always going to have issues. This is a living, breathing leadership style. You're holding it so carefully in your hands, but it doesn't matter. Things always have a tendency to go pear-shaped at some point. So I think it's just being prepared to manage that, and you really need to become quite good at de-escalating conflict within the team. And I think it's getting a better understanding of individuals and their personalities. So knowing what triggers somebody in a response and what doesn't. And if you start to see things rising in a meeting, it's just knowing how to bring that person down. Just how do I de-escalate that person? And one way you de-escalate one person is not necessarily going to be impactful for another. So it is, you do need to know your team.
Yes. I think you've hit on something. We do have a couple of questions to ask as well. I know we're getting this information, but we'll get to it. So Catherine and Deepak will ask your questions. But what I wanted to just say about this particular thing and the questions that are coming up is the how. The how do you start embedding this? But we can get you to answer that later on.
Yeah, definitely. And then emotional intelligence, we've talked about this, but it's your greatest asset during those times as well. It's having that emotional intelligence where you can remain calm in that situation. We've only got 2 more slides to get through, Jo, so these could take 5 hours or we could do them in 20 minutes. So we'll have plenty of time for questions. There's so much to say, right?
Yeah, there is. It's wonderful.
So this is just a very quick, just a bit of a pie chart, I guess, just to kind of implement, but it's not so much implementation really, I guess. This is more just like the different stages of this strategy. And so it is really starting with that strong future vision and clear communication. And this is a quote by Linda Hill, who, if nobody has come across her, I highly recommend jumping onto YouTube and watching her. She's incredible. She's a Harvard professor, and she is very well known within, I guess, that kind of leadership community. And she's just incredible. She has some of the most amazing one-liners and her thought processes, and she's incredibly inspiring. And sometimes when I'm having a bad day at work, or if I'm feeling like, what am I doing? Like I'm getting nowhere, I'm failing at this, I will just jump on and watch some of her quick YouTube clips, and she really brings you back to center. So this is a beautiful one that she's sort of, the role of a collaborative leader is to unleash the diverse slices of talent, then leverage and harness them for the collective good. So really getting to understand the diversity of talent within your team, and then leveraging that and using that as an advantage to get to your destination. She is very much an advocate for getting to know your team members as individuals, because that's how you'll get the best out of people. And so with this pie chart here, it's just that strong future vision and clear communication. Then get people to co-create the future. So that's sort of when we're talking about, we know the destination, but what's the journey look like? Collective genius. So this is really, I guess, that diverse slices of talent. So this is your collective genius, is bringing everyone together and finding out what it is that they're good at and what they love. And it's not even what they're good at, but what are they passionate about? What do they want to learn more in, and where do they want to participate? Then empowering your team and inviting them to participate. So you have to empower your people. You have to move away from them and give them authority, so that they feel that it's okay for them to get in and give this a go, and it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to come and say, I made a mistake, and that's fine. We can fix that and move forward. We learnt from it. But you have to give people that trust and empower them to feel that it's okay. The culture is okay. It's great to make mistakes. We all make them every day. Then you've got to give your people space to perform. So really step back as a leader and let them do their thing. And it's great to watch it when it works well. And the final part of this really is checking in and group catch-ups. So one-on-one check-ins are really important. So it's time consuming, because you are spending that time getting to know your team one-on-one, and creating a bit of an open door culture, except on the bad days when you just, it's okay on those days, because they probably don't really want to come in on that day anyway. But, I think it's important to have that approachable leadership style.
Wonderful.
And really, group catch-ups are great as well, but one-on-ones are vital.
Agreed. So for those of you that want to explore more about Linda Hill, there's been a YouTube link that's been shared as well, obviously after this session. But if you want to explore what Jade is referring to with Linda's ideas and insights in terms of leadership, this is wonderful. I love visuals as well. And I like the fact that you've called it implementation strategy.
Yeah, not sure that it actually is. Looking at it now, I think.
But in a way, it's giving an indication of what are the steps you could take. It's having those conversations, it's setting the tone, it's giving that vision. I think you have described it, and you've now got it in one place here. So I think it's quite good to have that.
Yeah, and I think with the initial implementation of this style, it really starts with the individual leader, I think, as well. Like really. And I just realized, so my next slide is literally my QR code for LinkedIn. So that's going to take no time at all. So we can sit on this one for a bit longer, and I'm happy to take some questions.
Let's do that. Let's take the questions. Leave the slide up. So I'm just going to bring up Deepak's question. It says, love the benefits of the collaborative leadership model. Are there any other things you've seen that have come from it that may have surprised you? This may be anecdotal things you've seen.
I think some of the best things that come from this is friendships outside of the workplace that are quite genuine. Another thing that I really found changed the culture, because I did go into an organisation where this was not the culture, it was the opposite. And I did implement this culture, and obviously it was warmly received, and it stopped the meanness in the office. So prior to that, we had an exceptionally probably quite mean culture, I guess. We had an exceptionally high turnover, and this has been in a couple of places that I've worked. But once you start to implement this, you just find that the kindness comes out in people, and it's a really nice thing to see that. Because I guess there's a certain amount of vulnerability, right, with being kind in the workplace and opening yourself up to people. And I think once people see you do that, they start to do it in turn.
I like that a lot. It's once again going to be the example of how to be. It'd be interesting to know, like, how did you start by turning the mean culture to the opposite? But that comes with another question from Catherine. I'll show you now.
Yeah.
Any suggestions for establishing collaborative leadership when starting a new company, which may not be used to this style? So that kind of ties into that piece there. How would you go about doing it?
So starting a new company, as in starting at a new company, or is it actually starting a company? It's sort of read like...
Oh, starting in a new company is what Catherine mentioned.
Yeah, perfect. So if you're coming in, I think, obviously, look, it depends at what level you're coming in, but I always think, this is like, has a ripple effect. So if you're coming in as a senior leader, it's going to be a lot, probably more impactful, more immediately, to come in and start to execute this style and start to really encourage these behaviours. But regardless of the level, it starts with you. So it starts with yourself, and it is going back to that self-evaluation, doing some research. Like, I really highly recommend researching the topic because there's so much on it. And then really looking at how you behave in the workplace and what sort of behaviours you want to be known for and how you want to conduct yourself, because this model starts with you. So if you're entering the workplace and somebody is not kind to you, or they're a bit snippy or snappy, our instant reaction, not mine, is to be snippy, snappy back. But something that I've had to do consciously is step back, take the emotion out of that and think, okay, that's their style, but I'm not going to have that style. And it's to lift yourself to that higher thought process, I guess. It's a mindset, and it's like, okay, well, that's how they communicate. I'm not going to retaliate with that. I'm just going to thank them and walk away. And honestly, it takes so much less energy to do that than to get invested in somebody else's life and their personality. So and you walk away. And then the hard bit is, but it becomes easier. Don't give it a second thought. Don't then carry that off and say to somebody else, oh, she just said this to me, that's so mean, blah, because then you're just carrying that on. You just need to rise above that, have that sense of maturity, I guess, and emotional intelligence. Say, that's okay, thank you, walk away, let it go. It's not going to happen straight away, but it happens. It's amazing. And you realize how much time you've spent getting caught up in other people's bad mood.
Yes, that's so true. It does. And they say
Yeah.
that, one negative person can really reduce productivity by 40%.
Oh,
So it does have an impact. So you want to address that
a
quite
negative
quickly.
person, yeah, and that's the other thing too. As wonderful as collaborative leadership is, and the benefits, and you are still dealing with individuals, and there are some people who you could invest all the time in the world and you're not going to change that person. If you have a negative person that you can't turn, my advice is move them on quickly.
I was going to ask that question. What do you do with a leader when you're like, you're trying to give them the tools and they're not showing up as they should?
No, because not everybody does show up in a way that you want them to. And there are just some people that are not ever going to see your way or going to want to participate in this model. And they're just not your people. And that's okay. Like, I'm very much now of the mindset that, okay, I'm not for everyone and everyone's not for me, and let it go. This isn't working out. Wish them well, move forward.
Yeah, this is it. We have another question. I'm going to bring that up this time. It was from Michael Delaney. People can be very comfortable in the traditional command and control team style and just want to be told what to do rather than participate in this model. What would you recommend to break down an individual's resistance to being in a collaborative style?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I have come across this quite a few times. I think some people just feel really safe in a traditional model. And, they like to have those set boundaries, and this is the expectation, what's expected of me. And they just feel more secure in that, and they like really close direction. I think this is really getting to know your individual team members, and somebody might really like that traditional model and they can still have elements of that, but it's really lovely to spend time with that person one-on-one, and potentially it's because they don't feel confident to step outside of that. They've had a bad experience in the past. They had an idea once and they spoke up in their first job, 15 years ago, and they were shouted at, or they felt embarrassed and they've never done it since. I mean, there's so many reasons why people don't speak up or participate in this model. But it's really getting to know that person and creating a safe space for them. They just might need a little bit of extra support in that safe space.
I like that. I like the way you framed it. Not everyone is going to be able to show up and be ready to take this on. You've got to meet them where they are and guide them along. And some people won't have the confidence, and it's helping to build that. And I think that kind of also leads into the question I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
And that was, all right, collaborative leaders, where do they go to get this style of leadership? People will be like, I love all of this, but where do I start? And it's the self-development piece that you referred to, the working on that. So what would be your recommendation, even from your own experience? You mentioned it's always lifetime learning for me. So you go off and you learn stuff and you read things and podcasts here, and there's a program you might go and do to get those insights and drive forward. And in a year from now, you'll think of what next. I'm going to try something else that will keep adding to that toolkit. So what's your recommendation?
Yeah, so you've mentioned some great resources there, and there's endless, as in, podcasts are such a great thing, right? Like, I can clean my entire house with a podcast on, and I don't even realize I've cleaned the house, and so, and that might be something around, I can just put collaborative leadership, into the app, and it will bring up an endless amount of resources. And they're not all for me, but it's skipping through and finding what works for you, and it'll be different for everyone. The internet's an amazing place. YouTube is such a great, powerful resource for me. And like I mentioned, if I'm just not feeling it, or if I go through 2 days where I'm feeling a little bit negative or something, I can really just start to do a bit of research on the internet, and it really helps to lift my spirits and get me fully invested again. But courses, I've done some great courses, and it's on my LinkedIn. There's some of the courses that I've done that just short courses, like 1-day courses through, I think, University of New South Wales, I think, or University of Sydney or something. And it's, the like power of influence, or women in leadership, diversity courses. And you just take so much from that. And also you build a great network. And I would have to say that having a strong network of other leaders around you who are like-minded and share your values.
That's a cheat code. Yeah.
It's so good. And, I really make a conscious effort to catch up with probably 3 or 4 very positive people. who are in similar positions to me, and we might have lunch once every 8 weeks, or I have a breakfast with a very, she's become a dear friend, but she is somebody who works at a competitor of us. But, we just get together and share stories and, what didn't go so well and what's going well. And from that, we really help each other out, even though we work at, different competitive agencies. We've just got this great kinship. And I think it's really important to find your circle. And also to recognize that everyone's not for you. You might meet somebody, and if you walk away feeling like zapped of energy, and that person just, you need to be aware, and that's your self-awareness. So once you've got that, some people fill you up and you're like, yeah, fantastic, I can get through this next week. And then other people kind of leave you feeling a little bit flat, and maybe they've got a little bit of negativity towards something that you're doing. And that's okay. You just walk away.
I agree. That really ties to the point of you are the sum of your peers. Look at the 5 people that you have surrounding you all the time. They will be influencing you and where you're at and your mindset. So that's quite instrumental. We have one more question, maybe.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
All right. So Catherine, how do you adapt collaborative leadership by culture? Oh boy.
So with that question, so how do you adapt the leadership by culture? So we're using the culture to adapt it? Is that?
Yeah, so think about it. I think, Catherine, maybe you can describe, if I, not articulating it the right way, but think about the culture of a business and then you embedding collaborative leadership based on that culture, I think.
Culture. Yeah. So, it's baby steps in the beginning. You're not just going to rush in and everyone's going to get culture shock. I think when I first start in an organization, and I have done this at a couple of organizations in the past, you start by booking a one-on-one with everybody in the organization, and it's from, whoever, it's everybody in the organization. You're going to do one-on-one. And a lot of it, you're introducing yourself. You're, talking about yourself as a human being and what their expectations of me are. How, really, I am here to look after these people. I'm not here for them to keep doing things for me. I am here as they're in my care, we're a team together, but I am here to guide them and to help them. And that's emotional support as well. And I think it's just creating that environment where they start to trust you. And it can take a lot of time to build that trust, and it can take a second to lose that trust. And it's important to always remember that. But it is just getting to know those individuals a little bit. And people are always going to be wary of a new leader when they come into a new leader enters a company. People have had bad experiences in the past. And it is getting to know your team one-on-one, then proving that you are that person. Showing up and being that person is so important. If you don't show up and walk the walk, people will realize that within 5 seconds, and they will not trust you, and it will not work. But it's really showing up every day and demonstrating these behaviors. Does that answer the question?
I think it answers the question that I asked you. Catherine has given more context, and I love the way you described all of that. It was, say, for example, you were in Japan or Korea, where perhaps encouraging people to share their ideas is not the norm. It's not within their culture. It might be a sign of disrespect, for example. How would you adapt collaborative leadership in that kind of space or place?
Yes, so that could be more challenging for someone like myself who, let's say, if I was moving to Korea and had to, suddenly try and implement a strategy and a leadership style such as this. So for me there, I guess it would really be getting to have a better understanding of that culture and being really respectful of that culture and what does and doesn't work. And I guess that comes from having, a multicultural society as well. So, every day we're working with people from different cultures, and that's getting to know that individual.
That's it. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. So the components that actually remain the same to take forward are the self-development. The leader must be doing that, the self-awareness, because that would be setting the tone or the scene or the foundation to ask those questions when you're having the one-to-ones or the group setting and you're meeting them where they are and adapting the collaborative leadership style versus that. So I think that answers the question. It was a really great question, Catherine. You've made us think on our feet there for a bit.
Absolutely. That's a really good question.
So please share your last slide. We're just about to hit time.
Yeah, yay.
This has been phenomenal, Jade. It's I'm pretty sure that the audience will resonate with the insights that you've given. You've given us a different perspective of leadership by just adding in that word and describing what it means. So I've taken away some actions and some insights, and I will be taking them into the business I work in. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been so lovely, and I'm happy if anyone wants to shoot through any questions or ideas or anything to me on LinkedIn. I can't guarantee I'd get back to everyone straight away, but I do my best. I definitely do respond. It's just sometimes can take 24 hours.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
For those of you, please connect with Jade. The QR code is here, and I'll be reaching out to you as well, just so we can take some of these insights and themes forward. But yeah, once again, awesome to have you here, Jade. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.